Welcome to this evening's kind of called a webinar or Fertile Mind Spa. This evening we're going to be just exploring the kind of concept of finding wholeness in brokenness. And a lot of people who explore, work with me, or I meet who are struggling with infertility, one of the questions I often ask is, what will having a baby give you? It's quite an interesting question because not often a question we actually kind of contemplate or think about. And if I look back on our own fertility journey, those who don't know, my wife and I had a 10-year fertility journey, both involving female fertility and then male fertility. And so it's quite a roller coaster of a journey. And looking back, we can see how our mind and emotions played a significant role in our journey. If we knew then what we know now, it would not have been a 10-year journey. We end up conceiving naturally against all odds, 1 in a billion chance. We were told it could happen naturally. And we can see my wife's health and cycle improved as her mindset changed. And me, significantly, my fertility improved dramatically when I found a more healthy psychological mindset. And I take on the fear way of not getting pregnant. And I can look back and really see how I really thought having a baby would give us contentment, give me contentment, and maybe us as well as a couple, but particularly me. I felt that, I look back and I was really honest with myself that I wasn't happy in life, and I was looking for a baby as a sign of a new season for our life. We can leave the past behind and all the struggles and things, challenges in our lives, and having a baby is a sign of a new season and a sign of contentment. So it's kind of one of the questions asked is, so what would having a baby kind of give you? And one of the things often comes up is a feeling of completeness or wholeness. So I thought, well, explore that subject this evening. Of course, we can look at anything around the mind and the body and the mind-body link, any other questions you want to ask. But I thought we'll start the conversation around finding wholeness in brokenness. And before we've gone live, some people asked me some questions or asked some things to be included, and I'm going to try and cover those. But I was going to read one question that came in, which for me kind of always summarizes the essence of what I found on my journey and a lot of people, clients find on their journey. And it says, infertility makes me feel at my lowest ebb. The logical way of dealing with it could be to focus on building a life that does not depend on having a baby. How do you start to try to build this life when you feel miserable, unsociable, and your confidence, motivation, and self-esteem is so low, and everything is so uncertain? Where do you even start? And I love that question, and I'm going to be using that as a reference point. We're going to go back to make sure I've kind of covered those kind of points this evening, because I can again look back and see my life and realised, that how do you start to try and fulfill life with other things when all you want is to have a baby? And I think the essence of what I read in that question is kind of focus on building a life that does not depend on having a baby. And I think that comes into the kind of the essence of kind of brokenness or finding wholeness, finding a sense of complete. When a part of us thinks having a baby is going to make us feel complete, that presupposes that we don't feel complete, that we think there's something missing. And until we find a way of feeling complete now, we're always going to think having a baby is going to be the thing that's going to make us feel complete. And anything else, we're just kind of kidding ourselves. We're kind of just trying to pick ourselves up or trying to find a way of motivate ourselves or take the pressure off, take almost a distraction or thinking that we know this is the right thing to do, to find a way of feeling inspired about life in other ways, but our heart's not in it, because if our heart still thinks we need the baby to feel complete, if our heart still thinks we're broken in some way or something's missing in some way, and that's when I'll start the conversation. How do we not feel broken? I say, how do we find wholeness in brokenness? Well, instead of looking at wholeness right now, to look at brokenness, the starting point. If we feel kind of broken or feel something's not complete or feel something's missing, I want to start the conversation there. And the first thing to say is, you may feel broken, but you're not. And it's easy, I know, for me to say that. I've come through the other side of the journey, but it's the truth. You may feel broken, but you're not actually broken. Let me unpack that a little bit, what I mean by that. The first thing is to say that 100% of our experience, of our our physiological experience, how we feel about ourselves, how we're feeling in the moment, whether it's happy, sad, the emotions that flow through our systems of feelings, the state of mind, everything we experience is thought. We're not feeling who we are. We are not broken. We think we're broken. We are not sad. We're thinking sad thoughts. We're not angry. We're thinking angry thoughts. It's not us. It's like, it's not in our DNA. Now, I always thought it did work like that. I thought I was a warrior. I thought it was my personality type. It's like who I am. It's like personality type. My mum was a warrior. I'm a warrior. I just thought it's just hereditary almost. Just a type of person. But no one's born a warrior. No one. No one's born broken. It's not who we are. We may feel broken, and life events have stacked up against us, and we feel broken, but we're not broken. And to explore that more and go down that direction to help you realize that no one comes into the world broken. We are like a diamond, perfect, pure, unique. And life does throw stuff at us. Life throws mud at this diamond, and sometimes it sticks. We hear messages constantly through all sorts of sources, whether it's our parents or the education system, society, the media. We're bombarded with these messages, and sometimes they're quite harsh, sometimes they're quite critical, sometimes the undercurrent of the message is we're not good enough. Media's a classic for this. You're only good enough if you dress the right way, look the right way. What it perceives is the right way. What it judges the right way. It's not true. So often we're bombarded by these messages, and sometimes they stick. It's like mud being stuck onto the diamond. And after a while, this will go on for a long time. And after a while, we start to think we're this pile of mud. We start to take on those messages for ourselves. We're not really realizing we're doing it. And some people are aware they may have some limiting beliefs, or they're quite hard on themselves or self-critical, but often we're not aware of it. We think it is us. We think it is our circumstances. We feel like a victim in life. Life can be tough. Life can be harsh. It can. Why is it we don't get this sort of thing? I thought my journey, how come I don't get the things in life other people get so much more easily? Why is life so much harder for me? I'm working really hard and trying to be the good boy, work really hard. It didn't seem fair. I really did feel like a victim. And so I had to question, maybe something wrong with me. But it's never us. It's never who we really are. It's this layer of mud we pick up along the way. We don't like what we see almost. We think we're not good enough, or we don't think we're worthy, or don't think we're complete. Or in some way, we keep things to prove ourselves in some way. We don't want other people to see us the way we see us. We don't want other people to see the mud. So we work really hard to try and polish it, to give it a shiny exterior, or we mask up and put a layer of nail polish around the mud to give it an exterior of being okay, to make sure people think good of us, or don't judge us, or aren't critical of us, to present to the world in the way we think we need to be, to meet their expectations. So how does that all happen? Well, let's take the diamond. If you think about a baby doesn't question its psychological well-being. Yes, it needs adult assistance for its physical well-being, but it doesn't question its psychological well-being. A little toddler does not compare itself to others. A little toddler doesn't try and please people. It's just being itself. I'm okay, you're okay, just thinks everyone's okay. It wouldn't question its okayness, its worth or value in any way. And that's how we come into the world. That's our essence. That's who we really are. That never goes away. That's our soul. Yeah, and as we get a bit older, particularly before an emotional intelligence is fully formed, which can have around the teenage years, up to that, we can start to question our okayness in the way that there's three parts of our brain. The oldest part of our brain is the reptilian brain. It's the top of our spinal cord. That's the fight or flight response, purely survival mechanism. Reptiles just stay alive, stay away from danger, and stay alive. Wrapped around the reptilian brain, which is the oldest part of our brain, through our evolution, the next part is the mammalian brain. Now, mammals are pack animals. They hunt and gather in tribes. Out in the wild, in mammals, in their packs, in their tribes, their chances of survival are pretty small if they're cut off from their tribe. If you're isolated from your pack, your chances of survival are pretty small. You'll be picked off by other predators, but also packs hunt and gather in packs. They need to be the numbers to gain food. So that part of our brain, the mammalian part of our brain, thinks our survival is dependent on the pack being secure, but also our position in the pack being secure. And growing up, the sense of pack, the tribe can be many things. Obviously, the family unit is the most influential pack or tribe as we grow up. But it could be the friendship circle. It could be all sorts of senses of tribe. And if that pack is under threat, so if our parents may be arguing or they split up, we can start to feel insecure. I don't believe parents split up causes impact on the children, kind of by default. Often it's how the adults behave in that scenario, and also what the children pick up, the message they pick up, even inadvertently. But also our position in the tribe needs to be secure. If we don't think we have unconditional positive regard from our parents or other people in other senses of tribe, we start to question what to do to get that. My mother, let's just lay down some ground or some premises here that our parents loved us unconditionally. They did the best they could with the resources they had available. Everything they did was motivated by love. My mum suffered from anxiety and depression and became an alcoholic. And my experience of her love, my experience of it felt quite conditional. If I behaved in the right way, I felt more loved. If I behaved in the wrong way, I got shouted at, I felt less loved. Now I know as an adult, she loved me unconditionally. We had a very good relationship. But for many years, a little bit of resentment that I wasn't aware of. But my experience as a child was love felt conditional. And when that happens, we start to think what we need to think to regain that unconditional positive regard, to get back into that connection, to feel safe in the tribe. Even though we're no longer those kids in that situation, the thinking we pick up back there can become thought habits. We continue to look at life through the filter, the lens of that thinking. And inadvertently, we're experiencing life through that childhood filter. I'm okay if this happens. I'm okay when this happens. So for me, I'm okay if my mum's kind of pleasing me. I'm okay if I get good school grades. I'm okay if I please my teachers. So start with my mum, that becomes other people. We become what I call outside in. In some sense, we think our okayness is dependent on something external to us, whether it's what people think of us, or achieving grades, or meeting someone's expectation. Even having high expectations on us can start to think, well, we're more loved or more accepted if we meet those expectations. So quite subtly, we can go more what I call outside in. Now, toddlers are inside out. Toddlers don't question their okayness. Toddlers don't need anything external for their psychological well-being. And all the time, they can have a tantrum about not having a sweet. So they think it's the end of the world if they can't have a sweet. That's very outside in. But what happens is, a few minutes later, they go back to being out inside out without any intervention, without any breathing or mindfulness or anything. They go back to their default setting. And that just shows, as human beings, sometimes we go outside in. It's called being human. But the more grounded we are to knowing our well-being is within us, we are that diamond. What toddlers do when they get upset about something, they don't try and fix it. Don't try and change it. This can be the toddler brain. If they can't have a sweet, they get all upset and it's the end of the world and they're having this kind of tantrum. But the thing is, while they're doing that, they're not trying to stop it. They don't judge themselves for doing it. They're not scared of it. They just express it. They don't care what other people think of them while expressing it, which is why they can do it in the supermarket. But then what happens? What happens? It just settles. Their temper, their upset, their anger, their upset just passes. They go back to being okay again without doing anything. And it's soon forgotten. They don't bear grudges. They don't hold on to things from yesterday. They don't worry about tomorrow. They go back to being in the moment. That's actually our default setting. It may not be our habitual setting. Habitually, we've got this fearful or insecure thinking going on. But our default setting, when we stop entertaining this, in moments of quiet, we not thinking, we forget to think, or the space below our thinking, we come back to just being okay. And that's our actual default setting. That's how we come into the world. That's how you can see toddlers are being more often than not. They are almost our purest form of self before we start getting contaminated with this outside-in thinking. The thinking that says, I'm okay if, or I'm okay when. So the first thing to recognize is we are that diamond. Whether we feel okay or not, we're still the diamond. Deep down, our toddler has that connection, even if they're in tension. Something inside them still knows they're okay. When my father died, it was I could really sense that. So there's a really strong, powerful emotion of grief. But deep down, I knew it was going to be okay. Yes, it was painful, it was difficult, it was horrible. But I still knew it was going to be okay, which means I didn't feel scared of the grief. I didn't take any meaning from it as if life was never going to be as good again. Life is going to be different without my father. No better or worse, just different. Yes, I was sad that he wasn't going to be around and I wouldn't see him again, clearly. So it was grief, sadness. There was still a sense, you know what, going to be okay. My mum, though, was the opposite. Because she was so outside in all through her life and she really believed she needed my dad to be happy. And she never got over his death. This grief became sorrow. So it's recognizing the more we are aware of the fact we are okay. Whatever human experience we're having, whatever emotion we're having, we never get so caught up in it. We don't be scared of it. We don't take any meaning from it because it's just thought in the moment. Your emotions don't know anything about what you're experiencing in life. Your emotions are telling you, you've got a bunch of thinking right now. You've got a busy mind. You're no longer present. You're in la-la land in your head. It's plausible, it's realistic, absolutely, but it's still la-la land. And that habitual outside-in thinking questions our okayness, whether we are whole, whether we are complete. It starts to think, no, our completeness is dependent on something. But just like the toddler, it's not. We are complete in this moment. And there's nothing wrong wanting to have a baby. It's about having, in one hand, on my hands, one hand we know we're okay in this moment, we're complete and whole like the toddler. The other hand, we have the goal of having a baby, whatever the goal is. We hold it lightly. Know we're okay whatever happens. And it's the creative energy between the two that moves us forward. And that's what toddlers have. Toddlers know they're okay in this moment. They still have this amazing aspiration to learn and grow and develop and do all sorts of amazing things. So I think the first thing in finding wholeness and brokenness is to recognize we're not actually broken. We may feel broken, but we're not. We don't have to be scared of this emotion. The emotion is thoughts, it's the stories we're telling ourselves. It's the insecure thoughts we carried on from childhood. So I often talk about Project You versus Project Baby. For me, it's about taking a step back and looking at all the thoughts and beliefs we've created about ourselves and life over the years. That's what we're bringing to our fertility journey. And sometimes this journey is such an emotional roller coaster, it shines a spotlight on those things, and maybe a bit more dormant in the back of our awareness, but it had been and will have been affecting how we show up and how we experience life in all sorts of areas of our life. And fear of failure is a classic. Fear of not being good enough. And we strive and strive to create things in our lives. And of course, that was the topic of last month, was striving versus accepting. Because it is quite a common one I see within clients, is a fear of failure. But that's something we learned, which means we can unlearn it. It's not truth. We are whole. We are inside out beings, but sometimes we go outside in. Sometimes we forget we're okay. Sometimes this habitual thinking thinks, okay, it is dependent on this stuff on the outside. It's about recognizing that's what we're doing. We're putting these lenses on, this filter. We're seeing ourselves, life in this particular way. Doesn't make it truth. Doesn't make it reality. And the more we understand where that emotion has come from, we don't need to be scared. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a baby, but it shifts to more of a desire rather than a need. And we know we're not broken. We can't be broken. The kind of the psychology I share with my clients is quite a spiritual psychology, because I do believe we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And our soul is formless. There's an energy behind life that we're never truly going to understand. It's formless. We live in this world as form. We live in this physical realm. This energy behind life is formless. It existed before time. There's an energy behind life that enables life to hang together, that enables a shoal of fish to swim together and know what to do. Whether we call it God, life, the universe, the divine, we're never going to truly understand it in our human concepts. But I believe it's loving, I believe it's divine, it's creative. We're made of it, we're part of it. And I think often forms of psychology are so grounded in the humanness of life, they forget we're actual spiritual beings having a physical experience. And some forms of psychology are so grounded in the spiritual aspects of life, the oneness of life. Don't get me wrong, I do believe there's a oneness of life, but also we're human beings. We're going to feel a range of emotions. We're going to go outside in. We're going to feel pain. And sometimes I think psychology forget actually we're both. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. But given we're spiritual beings means that we are made of that energy. It's part of us. It's who we are. It doesn't make anything that's defective. It doesn't make anything that needs to prove itself. That's our essence. That's who we are. If that energy was the ocean, then we're made of water. It's our essence. We don't have to prove ourselves in any way. It's like a birthright. When was the last time people looked at a baby and thought they weren't complete? It's just who we are. It's our essence, and that makes us the diamond. Not what we do, or we prove, or what we achieve in this physical world. That's our essence. And we're made of energy, we're part of that energy. We have a quiet mind. We reconnect to that energy. We feel more connected in so many ways when we have a quiet mind. We feel connected to our true sense of self, our soul. We feel connected to the energy behind life, the oneness of life. We feel connected to people we're with in that moment. You know those times you think of a friend and they call, what's that about? It's almost like there's a sixth sense. I think we are connected to this energy. At the same time, we're human. We're going to feel frustrated at times, pain at times, anger at times. We're going to go outside in at times, just like the toddlers go outside in at times, have their little tantrums. They forget where their well-being is when they go back to being okay again. And we're the same. Sometimes we see we're okay, we're living inside out. Sometimes we don't. We're insecure and we go outside in. And we shift from one reality to the other. And that's called being human. And the more we see that, when we go outside in, we can see what's causing it. It's not our circumstances, it's not who we are. It's thought. That's our experience of our situation. It's created by thought. The more we see that, the less we're scared of it, the less we're trying to fix it. Because here's the thing. Adults are the same. Sometimes we go like that. We go outside in. We get very insecure. We get worried about things and scared about things. What we tend to do is we feed it. We worry about it more. We have fear about having worry. We're worried about having worry. We're worried about the meaning about it. What about how do we fix it? Well, it's caused by this, and I can't change that circumstance. How can I ever let go of this? Well, this, and it goes on and on and on and on. We're putting more and more energy into it. The more we see it for what it is, thought in the moment, that childhood thinking presenting itself in the moment, the lens we're looking at life through. We can notice it, but don't go beyond noticing. And it settles on its own. It's a self-correcting system. We're never broken. Yes, we might go outside in and feel insecure and pain and fear and all sorts of things, but we're not broken. We have this inbuilt mechanism, this innate well-being that brings us back to being okay again, without us doing anything. And we find those moments when we're not trying to be okay. We find those times as being more okay than others because we're not trying to be okay. We may feel broken, but we're not broken. The more we understand that, the more we come back into our sense of being inside out, connected to our wholeness, the more we have periods of feeling whole. The more we know when we're not feeling whole, we're feeling insecure, we feel broken, it's thought. And this is about not ever feeling anything. It's about knowing where those feelings are coming from, to allow us to be more flowing from the inside out. So, just going to refer back to the question just as a reference point to see where we are as you can build this kind of picture. So infertility makes me feel at my lowest ebb. So here's the first thing. Infertility makes me feel at my lowest ebb. So that's often think, this makes me feel this. If 100% of our experience comes from thought, it's our thinking about our infertility creates our experience. Where some days feel better than others. The circumstances haven't changed, but our thinking about it has shifted in some way. So nothing makes us feel anything. 100% of our human experience comes from thought, our perception of life, our perception of situations. Thought comes and goes. And left its own devices, it just settles, it just calms. We flow more back to being inside out, and we see the situation with greater perspective and clarity. And also, when it calms, we come back to who we're meant to be, as in who we're designed to be, our true form of self in this moment. Just like the toddlers, they just know they're okay. When we have a quiet mind, we come back to being inside out. We are connected to our true sense of self, who we're designed to be. And as a human being, we're designed to be in this moment in reality. An amazing array of resources allow us to thrive in reality, to deal with whatever shows up in life. A lot of people are scared of losing their job. But if they get told they're made redundant, when they're in it, it's never as bad as they imagine it to be. It's not pleasant. I don't wish it on anyone. It's not pleasant, but it's never as bad as they imagine, because their resources show up. They get on with it. They find they have more resilience. I've talked to clients who've had the most horrific things happen to them over the years. One lady lost her 18-month-old baby to cancer. It's like, in fact, I asked her, if someone had told you that was going to happen in life, what would you think? She'd say, there's no way I could cope with it. I tell them I can't go through that. I couldn't live through that. But she has. And she found some amazing strength and resources she didn't know she had. It wasn't pleasant by any means. It was the most traumatic experience she'd been through, but she got through it. She found an inner strength she never knew she had. And that's because as a human being, we're designed for reality. We can deal with this present moment. What we can't deal with is the future. But the thing is, it's not about dealing with the future, because the future doesn't exist. It's about our thinking about the future, our imagination. That's what we can't deal with. Or sometimes we think we're dragged down by the past. Well, we're not feeling the past. The past doesn't exist. We're not defined by the past. We only experience the past when we think about the past in this moment. So 100% of our experience comes from thought in this moment. And when we're in this moment, we have an amazing array of resources: clarity, perspective, creativity, insight, intuition. All these amazing resources that help us in the moment, help us feel empowered, equipped in the moment. To not feel like a victim, to feel more like a creator. Okay, what can I do with this situation? And when we're in the moment, we're more attuned to our innate well-being and knows we're okay, whatever happens. And it's from that space we start to see opportunities. It's from that space we start to see possibilities. It's from that space having a baby shifts from being a need to a desire. And that's exactly what happened for me. Where, for me, I looked at my life. I was looking at 2 vegetable patches at one point. I was on a retreat and looking at these 2 vegetable patches, and one had all these vegetables growing, thriving. The other one was empty, had a few weeds in. I thought, that's my life. Everyone else gets this stuff, everything they want, the family they want, happiness and contentment seems to come to them so much easier. For me, mine looked like barren and empty. And it wasn't until I got to a space of realizing this space of being inside out. We used our language back then, and it was quite a journey. But when I found that space of living inside out, knowing I was okay for who I was, the same vegetable patch, this empty vegetable patch, appeared to me as like a blank canvas. Yes, I still wanted to have a baby, but it shifted from a need to a desire. I, for the first time, believed I could be as fulfilled and content with or without a baby. Yes, we still went to appointments, we still pursued it. But suddenly the pressure came off. Felt more calm. Whatever the outcome is going to be okay. So, going back to the question, infertility makes me feel at my lowest ebb. The logical way of dealing with it could be to focus on building a life that does not depend on having a baby. See, without living more inside out, we're fighting against this thinking. So our thinking said, yeah, it makes sense to do this. We're just fighting against the undercurrent of insecure or fearful thinking, which makes it really hard to take those steps. How do you start trying to build this life when you feel miserable, unsociable, and your confidence and motivation and self-esteem is so low? So here's the thing, what makes you lose self-esteem, your confidence, is all thought. It's the outside-in thinking. And you're fighting against that. So what I do with my clients is to let go of that. So flow more inside out, and life becomes more possibility. You're not fighting against all that, the mud around the diamond. You're shining from the place of being the diamond, resourced and connected to well-being. That's who you really are. And the more we see that, it's easier to take those steps. And the last thing is, how do we do this with all this low self-esteem, low confidence, low motivation, and everything is so uncertain? And that's a very common thing as well, where clients feel that there's a fear of the unknown. Because the outside-in thinking, I'm okay if, I'm okay when, wants to know we're going to be okay. It wants to know everything it thinks we need to be okay is going to be in place. That life is heading in the right direction. It thinks we need to feel complete. And this part of our brain doesn't like uncertainty. It wants to know we're going to be okay. Again, the more we're living inside out, the more we know we're the diamond. We don't need certainty about the future, because we know we're okay for who we are. And whatever happens in life, we'll deal with it, because the resources will show up when we need it. It doesn't mean we don't make plans. It doesn't mean we don't have aspirations. It means we hold them lightly. It means we know our psychological well-being is not dependent on them. And that's the difference that makes a difference. It lets us know we're okay whatever happens. And there is uncertainty about the future because nothing can predict the future. Nothing. It's uncertain by its very nature. Nothing can predict what's going to happen in the next 2 minutes, 5 minutes, week, month, year, 5 years. And the more we get comfortable with that, knowing that we have the resources within us to deal with whatever comes up in life, we can make a plan but hold it lightly. Life becomes an amazing adventure. Follow your soul rather than this outside-in insecure thinking. Follow your soul's desire. It's like driving in a really thick fog. But you can drive thousands of miles that way, just because you see a few feet in front of you. And in my experience, the more you do that, the more we get aligned to our soul, the fog begins to clear, you get a greater sense of clarity about what it is you want to create in your life, and how you can create that. So uncertainty is not a bad thing. What makes it feel like a scary thing is our insecurity. Us not knowing we are that diamond. Us not being connected to our innate resources. Us not recognizing that we are whole in this moment. And your whole in this moment is how you're born to be. None of my clients are broken. They just have a misunderstanding where their well-being comes from. None of my clients are broken. They just have a lot of contaminated thinking from childhood. Underneath all that is that diamond. They connect to that. Everyone connects to that from time to time, even glimpses of that. Those moments when your gut instinct knows exactly what to do. That's your wisdom. That's the diamond speaking to you. That's who we are. And the more we connect to that, a byproduct of knowing that is we're not so scared of the future. A byproduct is we're more aware of different ways that we can create things in our life that inspire us that may or may not involve having children. The motivation, the confidence just comes as a byproduct of knowing. So the question finishes, so where do you even start? So I guess I've answered that's where we start, is knowing we're not broken. You are that diamond. When you don't feel like diamonds, this is what's going on in your brain. And the more we understand, it's thought in the moment. You are past. It's not who you are. The more we get comfortable with all the emotions as human beings we feel, the more often we feel more content. The more often we drop back into our default setting, the space below all our thinking. The space below all our insecure thoughts. We can't control this thinking. We don't need to manage our state of mind. The more we try and manage it, we're fighting thought with thought. It's hard work. It generally doesn't work. The more we know we're okay, whatever we're thinking or feeling, it passes. It just settles. That's who you really are, the diamond underneath all the mud. And the more we see that, we see through the illusion of the mud. We know it's not even our stuff. It's other people's stuff we put on to us. Other people's fears and insecurities that we've taken on for ourselves. And we can be more connected to our true sense of self. So for me, that's the place we start to find wholeness in brokenness, by realizing we're not actually broken in the first place. If there are any questions, feel free to type them in the question box. And as people might be doing that, I said in an email before this that I had a kind of exciting kind of announcement about a new program. And I've been thinking about how I work with my clients and how I can explain what I do more, because sometimes it's quite difficult to explain. I'm just going to bring up a slide because I was quite chuffed with this. And I touched on this evening about how, sense of vision about what we want to maybe create with life, what we can do in our life that may or may not involve children. That's a sense of vision. But what stops us having that sense of vision is this kind of outside-in thinking, this kind of busy mindset. And in between this strategy and goals, I won't go into those, but for me, the foundation of our psychological well-being and also living a contented, inspired life is that mindset. The clearer the mind we have, the calmer the mind we have, the vision becomes clearer. Things we can do that inspire us that may not involve children. And the belief that we can get, and the strategy to make it happen. For example, I know plenty of clients had a sense of vision, what they would love to create in their life, but the thinking shuts it down. Oh, now's not a good time. I'm about to go through IVF. Or now's not a good time. I can't leave my job because it could, kind of maternity pay. And they're trapped in a life that's not honouring their soul. Like a square peg in a round hole. But they stay in it out of fear. Well, life goes on hold. Guess what? Life goes on hold. Your body goes on hold. To get life flowing again, it's living life from the inside out. That's why the mindset for me is a foundational piece that gives us clarity of vision about things we can do that inspire us, even beyond having children. And it just comes more naturally, as well as the belief and the confidence to make it happen, to find the strategy and to make it happen. So I talk a lot about the mind and the mindset, and that's because, I love this cartoon, this picture, because our mind is going round and round and round and round. We lose clarity. We lose perspective on situations. We lose that connection to our true sense of self, or who we really are. That was very much me. I wouldn't wish a 10-year fertility journey on anyone, but I'm so thankful I learned in the midst of it. And that's who I really am. I became aware of all this stuff in my head, this insecure thoughts. The bottom line is I didn't believe I was loved. I felt we lived in a world of lack of love, lack of everything. I lived in a world that I had to prove myself in some way. No one liked me for who I was. Creates a very, very, very busy mind, insecure mind. And I had no idea what I really wanted to create in my life. I came to this realization, this was going on. I realized I wanted a job that didn't inspire me. It wasn't really me, but I had no idea what I really wanted to do. Having gone through that journey, I call it a Project U journey. And mine was more extended because I didn't know what I was doing back then. I eventually got a therapist and coach. I can look back and see the difference and make the difference. And for me, it starts that kind of mindset. The mindset knows you're okay. And the mindset for me touches every area of our life, not just fertility. It's the core of who we think we are and how we think life operates. I saw life as this entity that's going to judge me in some way for not being good enough. So I'm living in fear. That affected my relationship with money, affected my relationships, affected my career. I didn't have any sense of purpose. My purpose was like survival, keep proving I'm good enough. And the more we're living more inside out, we get clarity in what we believe our sense of purpose is, even beyond having children. We get clarity in what it is we want to do with our time. We change our relationship with money. We change our relationships. We have a sense of knowing we're okay. There's less neediness and all that kind of stuff. We come from a place of abundance and giving. So for me, that's why I think the mindset is so key, as well as the whole harnessing the mind-body link. That's an absolute another area of my work, which is so important, and profound shifts can happen. But if it's built on a mindset of fear, it's going to undermine all that stuff. It's definitely happened to me in my journey. Till I let go of the mindset of fear, then things started flowing again. And this is what I love about what I do, and I think trying to summarize what I do is help people put that foundation, that mindset in, but also work through all those layers if they want to. They're clients who just completely change their life direction. So for me, I'm excited about what I do is Project U. And there's almost 3 layers to it. There's a program of getting off the emotional roller coaster. That's the kind of first place, is actually creating a connection to your innate well-being. Seeing through the illusion of thoughts and feelings and creating that connection to who you really are, that gives you that emotional resilience. It lets you know whatever happens, you're going to be okay. That you stop going on this emotional roller coaster and we're not less scared of our thoughts and feelings. And that gives us more of a sense of groundedness, being grounded. Client today referred it to me as being centered. And then another program I do is the Mindset Makeover program, which we build on that, but then removing your personal psychological blocks to getting pregnant. If you believe there's something there, and if there's something aren't sure if there's something there or not, and we have a conversation, often we find something. For me, it was, I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't believe I deserve to be happy. Others might be fear of failure. There can be some blocks, not actually specifically related to fertility without being applied to fertility journey, but actually come before that. Often again learned from childhood. And they can keep our unconscious mind trapped in this cycle that stops us getting pregnant. It could be a fear of getting pregnant. For some people, there's a fear of not getting pregnant. There's also a fear of getting pregnant because they fear they're not going to be a good enough mum. Or for secondary fertility, sometimes there's trauma associated with the first birth, and the unconscious mind is saying, well, we're not going through that again. So often there's some psychological scripts running in our unconscious mind that holds us back. And obviously that's quite personal. So dealing with that one-to-one is a way of clearing it. And when you do that, life feels like it's flowing again. You stem the tide of fear. Life feels like it's flowing again. Life wants to flow towards love, peace, and joy. But what stops us is the undercurrent of fear that's flowing the other way. And then the other program we do is give birth to the life you love, which is building on everything on that, but then actually getting greater clarity on that vision. What's your vision? What do you want to create? There's many people like me, I was like, a job just wasn't me. And so the only way to describe it's just not me. It doesn't feed my soul. It was well paid. It was easy, but just didn't feed my soul. So I had to leave. I had to find something that's more me. I couldn't bear the thought of being on my deathbed and regretting not trying to find whatever that thing that is more me is. And I thought, worst case scenario is I can go back and get a similar job elsewhere. But I had to go on that journey to find who I really am. And for me and some clients, it starts with, okay, let's get some clarity on what that vision is. It's reconnected to your soul so you know what that is. And for some people, they have a sense they know what it is, but don't believe they can make it happen. So it's helping them work through that to make those changes in their life. So living a life they love. So give birth to a life they love. In fact, a client recently, we finished an English a few weeks ago, and she's now pregnant. This is great news. We finished a few weeks ago, and summarising our kind of journey together, she said she couldn't believe that she was attempting to get pregnant when she didn't love life. But now she did her kind of mindset makeover program, she realised she loved life. She'd let go of these fearful blocks and everything else, and she didn't do a change in career. What she did was what she loved, what stopped her really truly loving it and loving effort, really relaxing into loving every aspect of her life, was her psychological blocks. Then she realised how she really loved life, and she's really looking forward to bringing life into this world and being an inspiration to them, rather than the child being the source of their inspiration, the source of their wholeness. That can put a lot of pressure on the child. So this is why I'm really passionate about Project You versus Project Baby. Because you have this innate well-being within you. You are that diamond. My wish is for everyone to know that. And the more you live your life in that space, you have a greater emotional resilience. The more you live your life in that space, you let go of fears. You know whatever happens, you're going to be okay. You let go of your past. You live more grounded to this moment and all the amazing resources you have in this moment. You can have greater clarity about what you're creating in your life, even beyond having a baby, that takes the pressure off the baby process. So you can continue that with far greater ease and well-being. And hey, guess what? That's where the magic happens more easily. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you begin to see you are that diamond. You are whole, whether you feel whole or not, you are whole. And you can create some amazing things from your life even now, even ahead of having a baby. And if you want to explore what a Project You journey may look like for you, then just get in touch. Because my wish is that everyone feels connected to their diamond and begins to create a life from that space. As I can see, there's no questions are coming right now, so I just want to leave it there. Release some space for you just to contemplate you being that diamond. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to connecting soon. Take care.